Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we delve into tales that inspire, challenge, and remind us of the boundless potential of human connection. Today's story is one of unexpected encounters, transformative love, and life-changing decisions. Join us as we explore the lives of three remarkable individuals whose intertwined paths teach us powerful lessons about compassion and authenticity. On a crisp evening in Manhattan, the city's energy buzzed beneath the golden glow of streetlights. Among the towering skyscrapers that stood as silent witnesses to countless human stories, the iconic Sterling Room glimmered with opulence. Known for its exclusivity, the restaurant catered only to Manhattan's elite, its clientele accustomed to the finest things life could offer. Tonight, Ethan Caldwell, a man often described as the epitome of success, found himself seated at a corner table, his sharp features betraying an unusual weariness. At 42, Ethan had everything most people could only dream of: fortune, status, and influence. His real estate empire spanned continents, his name whispered with awe in boardrooms. Yet, as he swirled his wine absent-mindedly, the shadow in his blue eyes hinted at something missing. Across the table sat Michael, his childhood friend and trusted attorney, who observed Ethan with growing concern. "You're brooding again," Michael remarked, leaning back in his chair. "Let me guess. Another boardroom battle? A deal gone sour?" Ethan shook his head, a faint smile curling on his lips. "No, business is fine. Too fine. Perhaps it's something else." Michael tilted his head, intrigued. "Come on, Ethan. What could possibly trouble the great Ethan Caldwell?" Ethan placed his glass on the table with a soft clink, his gaze distant. "I've built everything: wealth, power, influence. But for what? There's no one to inherit it. No one to carry it forward. My father, my grandfather, they all passed their legacies on to sons. I don't have that." Michael frowned, his voice softening. "You have Chloe. She's brilliant. Ethan, she could." "It's not the same," Ethan interrupted, his tone bitter. "In my family, it has always been a son. Chloe's incredible, but she shouldn't have to carry this weight. It's my burden." The silence between them grew heavy, broken only by the murmur of other diners and the faint clinking of cutlery. Michael leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "Ethan, it's the 21st century. That kind of thinking is outdated. You're letting an old family expectation dictate your happiness." Ethan exhaled sharply, his frustration palpable. "You think I don't know that? But it's ingrained. Michael, it's like a ghost that won't let go." Their conversation was interrupted by a waiter refilling their glasses. Ethan's eyes wandered, taking in the glittering chandeliers and the impeccably dressed guests around him. A sudden thought flickered in his mind, a wild, impulsive idea that made him sit up straighter. "You know what?" Ethan said, his voice carrying a dangerous gleam. "I'm done waiting for fate. I'm taking control." Michael raised an eyebrow, his caution evident. "What are you talking about?" Ethan leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "A bet. Right here. Right now. I'll marry the next woman who walks through that door." Michael nearly choked on his wine, his disbelief evident. "You've lost your mind. That's insane." "Maybe," Ethan admitted, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. "But maybe it's exactly what I need." Before Michael could argue further, the restaurant's grand doors swung open. All eyes turned toward the entrance. Curiosity piqued. For a moment, it seemed as though time froze. The figure that stepped inside was nothing like the Sterling Room's usual clientele. Her clothes were worn and disheveled, her hair messy, and her face bore the weariness of someone who had endured far too much. She stood hesitantly, her eyes darting around the room as though searching for an escape. A collective murmur of shock rippled through the diners. Michael stared, dumbfounded, while Ethan's expression shifted, first to surprise, then to something else: determination, curiosity. "Ethan," Michael hissed, leaning closer, "she's homeless. You can't be serious." Ignoring his friend, Ethan rose from his chair, The sound of his chair scraping the floor drew the room's attention. He approached the woman, his movements deliberate and confident. "Wait," Ethan called, his voice steady but firm. The woman froze, her eyes wide with fear. "You're my guest tonight." A murmur of astonishment ran through the restaurant. The woman, whose name was Lily Brooks, looked at Ethan as though he were speaking a foreign language. Her instincts told her to run, but something in his gaze, kindness, perhaps, or sheer audacity, rooted her in place. Ethan extended his hand, a warm smile softening his sharp features. "I'm Ethan Caldwell. Would you do me the honor of joining me for dinner?" Lily hesitated, her gaze flicking between Ethan's outstretched hand and the judgmental stares of the other patrons. Finally, with trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. "My name is Lily," she said softly, her voice hoarse. "Lily Brooks." "Welcome, Lily Brooks," Ethan replied, his smile widening. "Let's find you a seat." As Ethan guided Lily to his table, the room buzzed with whispered speculation. Michael stared in stunned silence as Ethan pulled out a chair for Lily and motioned for the waiter to bring her a menu. "Ethan," Michael began, his tone laced with incredulity. "What are you doing?" Ethan met his friend's gaze, his expression unyielding. "Keeping my word." Lily sat stiffly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was some elaborate prank. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan leaned forward, his tone gentle but resolute. "Because I made a promise, and I don't break my promises. Besides, maybe fate knows better than I do." Lily studied him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and confusion. "You don't even know me." "True," Ethan admitted, "but everyone deserves a chance. Don't you think?" Their conversation was interrupted by the waiter returning with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. As the evening unfolded, Lily began to relax, her initial wariness giving way to cautious curiosity. She told Ethan about her life, the struggles, the losses, the moments of hope that kept her going. Ethan listened intently, his own troubles momentarily forgotten in the face of her resilience. Across the city, in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, Margaret sat at her kitchen table, oblivious to the unfolding drama. She sipped her tea, her thoughts drifting to Ethan. Despite their differences and the pain of their divorce, she couldn't completely let go of the man she had once loved. Little did she know, his impulsive decision that night would ripple through her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. As the evening wore on, Ethan and Lily's conversation deepened, their connection growing amidst the unlikeliest of circumstances. By the time they left the restaurant, the whispers and stares no longer mattered. For in that moment, 2 very different lives had collided, setting the stage for a story that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, identity, and the courage to defy expectations. The morning sun bathed Manhattan in its golden light, casting long shadows over the bustling streets. Ethan Caldwell's penthouse, perched high above the city, seemed to glow in the crisp light of a new day. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. Lily Brooks sat on a plush leather couch, her posture stiff and her hands nervously clutching a cup of coffee Ethan had handed her moments earlier. The room's opulence, with its marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows, stood in stark contrast to Lily's worn clothes and hesitant demeanor. Ethan leaned against the kitchen island, his sharp features softened by an unusual uncertainty. The events of the previous night played in his mind, vivid and surreal. He had walked into the sterling room burdened by the weight of his legacy, only to walk out with a woman whose life story was a world apart from his own. Yet, as improbable as it seemed, he felt a strange sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. "I still don't understand," Lily said, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet, laced with skepticism. "Why would someone like you, someone with all this, bring someone like me here? What's your angle?" Ethan's gaze met hers, his blue eyes steady. "There's no angle. Lily, I told you last night I made a promise. I don't expect you to believe me right away, but I'm not playing games." Lily set the cup down, her hands trembling slightly. I've had my fair share of people who said they wanted to help me. They never stick around when things get complicated. Ethan's expression softened. I'm not them. And if you'll let me, I'd like to prove that to you. Before Lily could respond, the sound of the elevator chiming interrupted them. A moment later, Michael strode into the room, his tailored suit as immaculate as ever. His expression, however, was anything but composed. Ethan, we need to talk, Michael said, his gaze darting to Lily with a mix of curiosity and concern. Ethan straightened, motioning for Michael to join them. Whatever it is, Michael, it can wait. No, it really can't, Michael insisted, his voice firm. He lowered his tone, glancing at Lily. Can we speak privately? Lily stood, her wariness returning. I should go. Ethan shook his head, his voice gentle but resolute. You don't have to go. Lily, you're my guest. Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. Ethan, I'm your lawyer. And as your lawyer, I have to ask, do you understand the implications of what you're doing? This isn't a game. It's not a game, Ethan replied, his tone edged with frustration. I know exactly what I'm doing. Michael's gaze flicked to Lily, who stood awkwardly, trying to appear unaffected by their conversation. And what about her? Have you thought about what this will do to her life? Ethan turned to Lily, his expression softening. Lily, do you want to leave? If you do, I'll arrange for anything you need, money, a place to stay, whatever you want. But if you stay, I want you to know that I'm serious about helping you, about exploring what this could mean. Lily hesitated, her mind a whirlwind of doubts and emotions. The sincerity in Ethan's eyes made it hard to dismiss him outright. Against her better judgment, she found herself nodding. I'll stay. For now. Michael groaned, rubbing his temples. This is madness. Maybe, Ethan said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. But sometimes madness is exactly what we need. Meanwhile, across the East River in Brooklyn, Margaret Caldwell prepared breakfast for her daughter, Chloe. The modest kitchen was a far cry from the luxury she had once known as Ethan's wife. But Margaret had grown to appreciate the simplicity of her new life. Chloe, now 16, sat at the table, scrolling through her phone. Mom, did you see this? Chloe asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Margaret glanced over her shoulder. See what? Chloe turned the screen toward her, showing a news article with the headline, Ethan Caldwell's dinner date shocks Manhattan. Tycoon seen with homeless woman at Sterling Room. Margaret felt her stomach drop. What on earth? Chloe's eyes narrowed. What is Dad doing? Is this some kind of publicity stunt? Margaret set the pan down, wiping her hands on a dish towel. I don't know, Chloe, but I'll find out. Back at the penthouse, Ethan sat across from Lily, the tension between them slowly easing as they began to talk. Lily opened up about her life, the series of misfortunes that had led her to the streets, the dream she once had of becoming a teacher, and the painful memories she tried to forget. Ethan listened intently, his own struggles seeming trivial in comparison. For the first time, he saw his privilege through someone else's eyes, and it humbled him. I'm not looking for a handout, Lily said, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her words. I've been through too much to let anyone think I'm weak. I don't think you're weak, Ethan replied. In fact, I think you're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Lily looked at him, her defenses momentarily faltering. She saw something in Ethan she hadn't expected: compassion. Yes, but also a longing for connection that mirrored her own. Their conversation was interrupted by another chime from the elevator. This time, it was Margaret. She entered the penthouse with the confidence of someone who had once called it home, her sharp gaze immediately locking onto Ethan. Ethan, she said, her tone icy. What is going on here? Ethan rose, his demeanor calm but firm. Margaret, I didn't expect you. Clearly, Margaret replied, her eyes flicking to Lily. Who's this? This is Lily, Ethan said, introducing her without hesitation. She's staying here for a while? Margaret's expression hardened. What are you thinking? Do you have any idea how this looks? I don't care how it looks. Ethan shot back. This isn't about appearances. It's about doing something meaningful. Margaret crossed her arms, her voice lowering. And what about Chloe? Have you thought about how this affects her? Chloe's smart. Ethan replied. She'll understand. The tension in the room was palpable. But before Margaret could respond, Lily stood. I think I should go, she said, her voice quiet. No, Ethan said firmly. You don't have to go. This is your decision, not anyone else's. Lily hesitated, glancing between Ethan and Margaret. She felt caught between two worlds, one she had never belonged to and another she desperately wanted to leave behind. I'll stay, she said finally, her voice steady, but only if this is real. It is, Ethan assured her, his gaze unwavering. As the sun began to set over Manhattan, the stage was set for a collision of lives, each character grappling with their own conflicts and choices. For Ethan, it was a chance to break free from the constraints of his legacy. For Lily, it was an opportunity to reclaim her dignity. And for Margaret, it was a stark reminder that the past could never truly be left behind. The days that followed were a whirlwind of adjustments and revelations. Ethan's penthouse, once a symbol of isolation despite its grandeur, became a hub of transformation. For Lily, the shift from surviving on the streets to living in one of Manhattan's most exclusive addresses was surreal. At first, she tiptoed through the space as if afraid to disturb it, her every move a reminder of how out of place she felt. But slowly, through Ethan's quiet encouragement and genuine efforts to make her feel at home, she began to lower her guard. One morning, Ethan found Lily standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, staring out at the skyline as the sun painted the city in warm hues. She seemed lost in thought, her arms wrapped around herself. Penny for your thoughts? Ethan asked, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. Lily glanced at him, her expression contemplative. It's strange, she said softly. I used to sit in parks and look up at these buildings, wondering what it must be like to live in one. Now I'm here, and I'm not sure I belong. Ethan handed her a cup, his gaze steady. Belonging isn't about where you are, Lily. It's about who you are, and from where I'm standing, you belong anywhere you want to be. His words lingered in the air, heavy with sincerity. Lily gave him a small, hesitant smile, the kind that hinted at her walls beginning to crack. But not everyone saw the situation as Ethan did. Margaret's concern for her daughter, Chloe, grew as she watched Ethan's decisions unfold from afar. She couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan's sudden need for change stemmed from unresolved guilt about the past, including the dissolution of their marriage. One afternoon, Margaret invited Chloe to lunch at a cozy cafe in Brooklyn. The mother and daughter sat at a small table by the window, the hum of conversations around them blending into the background. Mom, is this about Dad again? Chloe asked, picking at her sandwich. Margaret sighed, setting down her cup of tea. Chloe, I just want to make sure you're okay with everything that's happening. Your father has always been impulsive. I'm worried about how this might affect you. Chloe tilted her head, studying her mother. You mean the fact that Dad's trying to do something good for someone? I think it's unexpected, but not bad. Margaret blinked, surprised by her daughter's insight. You're more forgiving than I was at your age, she said with a wry smile. Chloe shrugged. Maybe I've learned that people make mistakes, but that doesn't mean they can't do better. Margaret reached across the table, squeezing Chloe's hand. You're a wise young woman. You know that. Back at the penthouse, Ethan was busy preparing for an upcoming gala. The event, hosted by one of his business associates, was an opportunity for Lily to meet people from Ethan's world, a world that had once felt like a gilded cage to him, but now offered a chance to bridge their differences. Lily, however, was apprehensive. I don't know how to act around those people, she admitted as she stood in front of the full-length mirror, dressed in an elegant gown Ethan had helped her choose. You don't have to act, Ethan said, standing behind her. Just be yourself. That's more than enough. As they arrived at the gala, the room buzzed with whispers and curious glances. Ethan's peers were polite but guarded, their smiles tinged with judgment as they greeted Lily. Despite her nerves, she held her head high, determined not to let their opinions diminish her. Midway through the evening, Ethan introduced Lily to Michael, who had remained skeptical of Ethan's choices. To Ethan's surprise, Michael extended his hand to Lily with genuine warmth. "Lily," Michael said, "I'll admit I wasn't sure what to think at first, but seeing how much you've brought out in Ethan, well, let's just say I'm starting to understand." Lily smiled, her confidence growing. "Thank you, Michael. That means a lot." Later that night, as they returned to the penthouse, Lily let out a deep breath. "That was intense," she said, slipping off her heels. Ethan chuckled, loosening his tie. "You handled it better than most people I know. You were incredible." Lily looked at him, her expression softening. "I wouldn't have gotten through it without you." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of their vastly different worlds seemed to fade. But before the moment could deepen, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. "Everything okay?" Lily asked. "It's Margaret," Ethan said, sighing. "She wants to talk, probably about Chloe." Lily nodded, her voice quiet. "Go. She's your family." The next day, Ethan met Margaret at a quiet park where Chloe used to play as a child. The conversation was tense at first, but eventually, Margaret's frustration gave way to concern. "Ethan," she said, her voice softer now, "what are you trying to prove? To me? To Chloe? To yourself?" "I'm not trying to prove anything," Ethan replied. "I'm trying to change. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm doing something real, something that matters." Margaret studied him, her expression unreadable. "I hope you're right. But remember, change isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency." Her words lingered with Ethan as he returned home. That evening, he found Lily on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked without looking at him. "Every day," Ethan replied, stepping beside her. "And lately, it's a future where you're a part of it." Lily turned to him, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that." "You don't have to be," Ethan said. "We'll take it one step at a time." As the night deepened, their connection grew stronger, but so did the realization that their journey would not be easy. For Ethan, it was a lesson in patience and vulnerability. For Lily, it was a test of trust and self-worth. And for both, it was a new path, one filled with uncertainty, but also with the promise of something extraordinary. The story of Ethan, Lily, and Margaret teaches us profound lessons about love, transformation, and the resilience of the human spirit. Each character's journey offers a mirror to our own lives, revealing truths that resonate deeply. Ethan's story is a testament to the power of change and the courage it takes to confront one's own shortcomings. As a successful businessman, he had everything but fulfillment. It was only when he took a bold, unexpected step, choosing to engage with someone so far removed from his world, that he began to find a sense of purpose. Ethan's journey reminds us that true success isn't measured in wealth or status, but in the impact we make on others and the authenticity we bring to our lives. His evolution from a detached, driven man to someone who values connection above all highlights the importance of vulnerability in forging meaningful relationships. Lily's path demonstrates the strength of the human spirit. Despite a life of hardship and rejection, she carries herself with quiet dignity. Her journey into Ethan's world, though intimidating, reflects her courage to embrace change and challenge herself. Yet, Lily's greatest lesson is about staying true to oneself. She reminds us that while circumstances may change, authenticity is what defines us. Her transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about realizing her worth and staying grounded in her values. Margaret offers a perspective of reflection and maturity. As someone who has been hurt by Ethan's past decisions, her initial skepticism is rooted in protective instincts for her family. Yet, her willingness to confront him and voice her concerns with empathy shows us the power of honest communication and the strength in letting go of resentment. Together, their intertwined lives reveal that love and understanding require effort, patience, and an unwavering commitment to growth. Through their struggles, we see that the most profound connections come from embracing differences and fostering empathy. Thank you for watching this heartfelt journey on empathy stories. We hope Ethan, Lily, and Margaret's tale resonated with you and inspired reflections on the power of love, self-discovery, and forgiveness. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring narratives. Remember, empathy can transform lives, yours and others. See you next time.